Welcome to Spoiler Feast Theater, the podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Megan Kearns. My pronouns are she, her. I write film reviews for Edge Media Network, and I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association.
My name is Dave Riedel. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and I write about movies and stuff.
And my name is Evan Crean. I am co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s movie guide to better living.
Yeah, you are.
Yes, you are.
Hashtag facts. So this week, we're going to talk about some movies. Before we get into that, I want to tell you about our Patreon exclusive bonus episode like we put out every week. This one is the winner of our noir poll, and the film that won that poll is The Long Goodbye. So if you're a patron, go check it out. And if you're not a patron, consider subscribing.
Yes, thank you.
Listen to us talk about Elliot Gould's smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
Yes, lots of cigarettes.
Lots of cigs.
Lots. But on the main show this week, we are going to be reviewing The Humans, Bruised, and King Richard. So we are going to start things off with the A24 film, The Humans, that Evan and I saw.
Mm-hmm.
And it is written and directed by Stephen Karam, based on his play. And it stars Richard Jenkins, Jane Houdyshell, Beanie Feldstein, Stephen Yeun, Amy Schumer, and Jane Squibb. And this takes place on Thanksgiving in a New York City, Manhattan specifically, brownstone. And Beanie Feldstein and her boyfriend, Stephen Yeun, have just gotten the place. And so there's not a lot of furniture, kind of some makeshift furniture. And they're hosting the Thanksgiving dinner with her parents and her sister and her grandmother. And that's the whole film. And it takes place over the course of the evening, and conversations unfold and secrets come out. But yeah, I'm sure we'll talk more about the plot as we dig into the film. But Evan, what did you think of this?
I wish I liked it more. Starting with the title, I just feel like the title is just kind of pretentious. When you hear a movie is called The Humans, you're like, oh God, what am I in for? I love all the people that are in this. They're all really good. I think it just felt like there was going to be more drama than there turned out to be. Maybe that's part of my problem is I felt like I was primed to be in this movie where people were really going to be at each other's throats. And there are some points where like it starts to boil and it seems like it's maybe going to get to that point, but then something happens and someone disarms someone else in a way that I feel like never quite reaches a full boil. So I don't know. I liked this, but I didn't love it. And I was interested by the kind of surreal, supernatural elements that were also kind of happening in the background. What about you? What did you think?
Yeah, you're really echoing what I felt about this film too, surprisingly, because if I hadn't seen the film and I just listened to your description, I'd be like, that sounds like the movie for me. And I love a dialogue heavy film. I love a film that takes place in one location. I love family, like fucked up family dynamics. Like I love a dinner party. Like especially a problematic one, like we just saw The Feast last week, or like Karan Kusama's great horror film The Invitation, or like a small dinner party like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Like there are so many great dinner party movies, and especially ones where drama, boils over. But it doesn't even have to get super intense or dramatic. Like you can have smaller moments. But my problem with the film, and by the way, I need to say that this cast is incredible. It's such a great cast. I love Stephen Yeun, like love. I think he's amazing in everything. And sidebar, I think it's really kind of funny. There's a joke about, or not joke, but there's a conversation about horror films and zombie films specifically. And he talks about a comic book. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. Considering that he exploded on The Walking Dead, of course, which is, just very, very kind of meta. I love that. And I don't know, that might have been in the original play to begin with, but I just kind of loved it. It was great.
Yeah, that was a funny moment.
Yeah, but yeah, and Richard Jenkins is always great. Like, this is a really solid cast.
Mhm.
But my issues are I didn't really care about any of the characters. Like, I don't
Yeah.
really feel like I knew any of them. I don't really feel like I cared to know any of them. And I don't mean even in an interesting, like, stereotypically unlikable way. Like, no, I didn't really care. It just didn't really grab me.
Right.
Everything felt very surface level. Even though the conversations they're getting into and the secrets that are being revealed are intense and vulnerable, there was something about the film that felt very off-putting to me in that there's some kind of distance happening with the characters. And part of it feels kind of intentional.
Yes.
And I will say, to the film's credit, some of the cinematography annoyed me. Like the way that during conversations, you would tend to only see one person, and the person who was talking, you would only see the back of their head. You wouldn't ever see their face. And if you're going to do that, I feel like you need actors who are really going to showcase their whole body to convey an emotion. And that's just not happening here. So that kind of irritated me. However, there were some incredible, fantastic shots of the house. Like, I think the house is used phenomenally well spatially, especially in that a lot of times people are like, they're wide shots, but they're like crammed into doorways or into windows.
Yeah.
And it really feels this sense of dread and claustrophobia that I really, really appreciated. And my favorite shot is at the very end of the film when you see the wide shot and you see the two levels, because it's 2 floors of the apartment. And I love that you're seeing Richard Jenkins at the bottom, like almost entirely in pitch black. And then you do see him in pitch black, and then he just exits the door. And it's great. It's such a great shot. So for me, the cinematography was uneven. At times it was amazing. At times not so much. It was frustrating.
I agree.
And yeah, I felt this disconnect from the characters where I just didn't care like the way I should. I wasn't drawn in. I wasn't engaged the way I felt I should be, considering the caliber of this cast.
Yeah. I don't think it's a performance acting issue, because I feel like everybody here was actually doing good work. But I agree that I think you put your finger exactly on what was bothering me, was that I just didn't care about the characters at all. And I think that probably has more to do with the writing of the kid and the way that they're written. They're not extremely dynamic people. And
right.
that was a bummer. And like you, I enjoyed some aspects of the cinematography. That dual level shot I thought was really cool. I liked some of the times where we were kind of like distant from the characters, but also like confined to like a hallway or a doorway or something.
Yeah, it really captures the kind of disorientation and decay of the building, but also of the people, which I think is a great parallel.
Yeah. Yeah, and I liked the emphasis on like the decay of the building. This like apartment that's in Chinatown, that's like a basement level apartment. And Richard Jenkins is like, in the opening, he's talking about, they're in the flood zone, they're going to get flooded, it's a terrible place to live, and there's all these bubbles in the paint on the wall, and all the light bulbs are slowly burning out one by one, even though they're supposed to be new light bulbs. And so
he's always checking the fuse box. And
yes.
Yeah, no, I think the house is used really, really well. And I agree with you. But yeah. And although I have to say, I don't think all of the performances are great, unfortunately.
Who do you think's the weak link here?
I don't think Amy Schumer is really great in this. I think she's fine. Fine. And I think she's great in Trainwreck. So it's not like I don't like her in other things. But yeah, and I think I hate to say this, but I think Jane Howdyshell, who is the mom, Deidre, and she's reprising her role from the play. For me, her performance didn't work.
Yeah, I could see that. I was probably the saddest about June Squibb, because I like her and I think she's really great, but her character is given so little to do because they made her, like a grandma with dementia and doesn't know what's going on and spends like a lot of the time sleeping or mumbling, and just made me sad to feel like she was just so wasted in that part.
Agreed, because she's such a great actor. I was gonna say it's a weird choice, but at the same time, that probably was her role. Like, that was probably that character's role in the film. I mean, not the film, the play.
Right.
But still, yeah, but it is such a waste of a really great actor.
Interesting.
But like, and I also feel like I know that the film is talking about illness and it's talking about, getting older and as well as religion and money and going after your dreams and kind of all of these major life issues. But I feel like I don't know, there's everything just felt so very surface level to me that these deep issues are not really being actually delved into. And there are other films that deal with similar issues and are conveyed in a way where maybe the characters aren't really saying what they feel, like there's a restraint to them. So they're not expressing all of their thoughts and emotions, but you can see it. You can see the emotions on their face. So you know how they feel. But I don't feel like that's fully happening here, which is strange considering Richard Jenkins' character has like a kind of an emotional crisis break at the end. The mom also has kind of a break where she's crying at the table when no one's around. Beanie Feldstein's character, Bridget, is also having like a breakdown.
On the roof, yeah.
On the roof. Amy Schumer's character is having a breakdown in the bathroom because she's upset about her girlfriend breaking up with her and then not wanting to talk to her. So it's weird because I feel like as we're talking about this, I'm like, wait, this film should work. This film should work amazingly.
Right.
And it's not bad, but it just didn't quite hit me the way I wish it had.
So, yeah, it didn't deliver on the promise of a Thanksgiving fucked up family movie. It didn't arrive at the destination, and it's really disappointing because there's just so few Thanksgiving movies out there in general, and just so few that are any good / worth watching with any kind of like repetition. And so I was really hoping, okay, maybe we'll get a new one to throw in the rotation.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to applaud this film for what it's trying to do. And, I know this, or I shouldn't say I know, I'm pretty sure this is an award-winning play.
Yeah, it won the Tony.
Thank you. I thought it did. Thank you, Dave. So clearly there's a claim here. Clearly it's, it's resonating with people. I just wish it had with me. Like, yeah, it just, and that's the thing. Like, I think you can make a really compelling film and story about these small moments. Like, Dave, I know you and I talk about it constantly. Like, we love long, slow films where it seems like nothing happens, but really everything is happening.
Yeah.
And I wish I could say that's what was happening here. And maybe it is for other people, but just, not so much for me.
I have a question.
Yes.
What supernatural stuff? What?
There's some doors that open in this. The light bulbs are burning out. There's like things that are, like the doors open on their own and you see them open on their own. And so there's kind of like this ghostly specter angle that's kind of like hanging over the family.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it supernatural, but as soon as you said it, Evan, I knew exactly what you meant. Like, especially from the mom's perspective. She's kind of creeping around the hallways because she's very like nervous. The doors are going to open and it's almost like somebody's there. So yeah. So it's kind of more a vibe than what's necessarily happening.
True. Yeah. Easily explainable situations that are just creepy.
Yeah. Which also kind of, I guess, interestingly plays into her beliefs of religion, I guess. And because the parents are really bummed out that their daughters are not into religion anymore. And like they make it a point to be frustrated about how Bridget is like she wants to do more juicing and have more organic, produce. But Richard Jenkins is like, why don't you just go to church? Okay.
Yeah. Ooh. I mean, that takes me back to, I think, one of the most uncomfortable moments in the movie is when you have two for sure Jewish actors singing about Christ.
Yeah, what the hell was that?
I mean, I don't know everybody's background in the film, but between Amy Schumer and Beanie Feldstein, I was like, I am very uncomfortable with the scene.
Yeah, I was like, I wasn't sure everybody's beliefs either, but I knew Beanie Feldstein for certain. Yeah, it was kind of strange. I don't know.
I mean, not that people can't play,
No,
something that they're
no,
not.
no,
It's just
no.
when you have people who I feel like are pretty well known in like, like they're well established celebrity personalities and that they're Jewish. It's just weird.
No, I know what you're saying. No, you certainly can play other religions, of course. Yeah, I think it's just one more example of why don't we have more Jewish characters?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like you could still have the same exact story, but just have them be Jewish, or even be, have like one parent be Jewish. Like, I don't know. It's kind of strange to me.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm not so displeased I didn't see it. So awesome. You spoiler pieced me into not wanting to see it.
I mean, I don't know, Dave. You might love it.
It doesn't sound like I will. Yeah.
Yeah. But Evan, did you have any more thoughts on the film?
No, I think I've hit my limit on the humans.
Yeah. For me, very uneven. Some really great moments and some overall less ones. But okay. Well, let's move on to our next film, which is Bruised, starring Halle Berry in her directorial debut. And it's written by Michelle Rosenfarb. And Halle Berry plays Jackie Justice, a former MMA fighter who ran away from a fight when she was getting beaten. And she struggles with alcohol problems, drinking alcohol from a spray bottle of cleaner that she's decanted. She has an abusive boyfriend and a volatile relationship. No surprise.
Yep.
And she starts fighting again. And she also has her 6-year-old estranged son, Manny, come and live with her because her mother drops him off with her because he was living with his father.
Yeah. And we'll add that his father was murdered in front of him. So he...
Yes. Which is probably why he doesn't speak at all throughout the movie.
Right. Yeah. He doesn't speak. And for a while, he doesn't really eat very much. Yep. It takes a little while to get him to at least start eating. And then we finally hear him talk in the last, minute of the film?
Yeah, he speaks the last line of the movie.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. So, what did you guys think?
Dave, you go first since we just talked about the humans.
Well, this movie's full of a lot of humans who are unfortunately not quite human-like. Correction. They're human-like. They're not humans. I think this is a really well-directed movie and pretty well acted most of the time. But I think this screenplay is full of sports movie cliches and down in your luck trying to make good cliches. And, I used to have promise, but, now I hit the bottom and I'm trying to claw my way back cliches. It's kind of like the dramatic version of Major League with boxing instead of baseball. So it's just... Thanks. I really liked Halle Berry's performance. And I think her direction is actually pretty solid. It's just the screenplay is kind of like, who cares? I feel like I've seen all of this before. It's not that it's bad, just there's no surprises in it.
Right.
No.
Yeah, that's how I felt watching it. It held my attention. Like you said, the direction is good. And I think there's some good cinematography in this as well.
Yeah.
Some good editing in there too, and the montages and the fight scenes. So I think there's something here, but I also felt like it was utterly predictable.
Yeah, even when she loses the fight on a split decision, it was just like, of course she's going to.
I felt very similar to you. It was like there's definitely some pluses and some strong parts of this movie, and there's definitely some weaknesses to it. But curious to hear what you thought as well, Megan.
Yeah, I for the most part agree with you guys. Yeah. The movie at first really pissed me off, like the first 10-12 minutes, because I'm always pissed off when we're going to conflate sex and violence, because her and her abusive boyfriend get into a fight and he's like punching the wall next to her, and then they start fucking because of course they do. And it really irritated me. And I'm like, okay, is this what we're in for this movie? But then the movie did kind of win me over. So I think the film gets a lot better as it goes along. I think it gets a lot better once we get rid of the boyfriend, because I don't really think he adds anything to the story or to anything.
Other than a reason to get them out of the house. I mean, that's kind of why he's
there. More obstacles for her to overcome between him, hating the kid. threatening to hit the kid, hitting her. It's just
right. But that's the thing. She has enough obstacles. I mean, the fact that she has such a traumatic past, like we find out through the film that she, was a survivor of rape, that she was raped as a kid and like from her mother's boyfriends. Like, I mean, it's just like one thing after another. And I agree that I think Halle Berry's performance is really, really good. I especially like her performance with Manny. I think
the kid is really good.
I do too. I agree. It's such a cliche and it's such a trope to pair a difficult or struggling or quote unquote unlikable protagonist with a kid. I mean, we see it time and time again. And, or to make them be a parent, like I think of The Wrestler, to show his relationship with his daughter. But in that film, it really shows how kind of pathetic he is, in that he isn't a good parent. And in this case, it feels like Manny is there initially just to make her more sympathetic. But I have to say, I think Halle Berry's performance and the actor who plays Manny, I think his performance and their interactions and rapport together, I think it transcends the script. And so I ended up liking the two of them together and really liking where their relationship goes. But yeah, you guys said it and I completely agree. This hits every single sports movie trope. There's so many other tropes too, going on in her narrative, Jackie's narrative, and like with her mom and everything. But she's really great. I like how physical the role is. I really liked Sheila Ateem's performance.
She's great.
Yeah, she's so great. And it's so interesting because she's her coach, or she becomes her coach, and she's a lesbian, which is great. And then her and Jackie have a relationship. And I'm like, whoa, Jackie's a queer woman. That's awesome. But just as quickly as they start, it's over.
Yeah, that was frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, and so it's interesting because I saw a couple reviews call this queer baiting, which technically it's not queer baiting because they did have a relationship, but I get what they're saying. I actually was kind of okay with it though. Not okay with queer baiting, but okay with their relationship because it makes sense that Jackie just coming out of a relationship, specifically an abusive one, would be like, no, I need to get my shit together and I need to do that by myself. Like it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah. So it just made me sad because I was like, oh no, but I like you two together. So it was a little dusty in the room.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And then it sucks too because you know how much it's going to hurt.
Yes.
Bobby, Budokan?
Budokan, yes.
We know how much it's going to hurt Bobby. And so it just sucks seeing Bobby have to go through that. And then, Bobby relapsing after that. It's just,
Yeah, I'm not really sure that, I mean, I don't want to read the tea leaves too much, but I'm not really sure I buy her going out and going on a wild bender after that. I'm just not sure.
I don't buy it either, so thank you.
It just seems a little too easy, a little too pat.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how I feel about most of this film. It just feels too convenient, too easy. But even when there's obstacles, it's like they're there for a reason. Like it's hitting certain beats. And yeah, so I completely agree with you.
I think if you just wanted to like kind of turn this movie on its head and make it, I'm gonna do my version of Dr. Chris, whatever his segment used to be called. Like why? So Jackie's a fuck up, right? Why not make her from a completely conventional, normal, middle class family that has no problems? That treated her with love and respect.
A turn.
Right.
And then she's just this fuck up. Why not?
Yeah.
I don't know. I did think that there was one, and I don't know if this is I don't know if this is a screenplay thing or if this is a direction thing. There was one moment that I thought was really good, and that's when Jackie and Manny are walking, I think, to school, and he hears just the two of us playing, and he stops walking, and he kind of like sits down and starts crying on the next to the store where the music is playing. And I think it was interesting in that that's the first time that Jackie does the right thing as a parent, which is to do nothing, just kind of let him be sad. But she does it because she doesn't know what to do. She doesn't do it because it's the right thing to do. It just happens to be the right thing to do. And I thought that whoever made that choice, that was a smart choice.
I agree with you. I think that's such a lovely scene. I really like the scene where she puts her body in between Manny and her boyfriend. And I mean, which is kind of a more obvious choice, but just I think the way Halle Berry does it, and this is a very physical role. I love the way she uses her physicality in this role. But yeah, there are those small moments with Manny and bigger moments that I think just work really, really well. The other thing that I have to say, thinking about making an unconventional film, this is actually, I know we're talking about all the tropes and everything, but this is actually an incredibly unconventional film in one giant way. The fact that it's a 55-year-old Black woman in the lead as an MMA fighter, that's amazing, because this was originally supposed to be Blake Lively. She was originally cast in the film, and then Halle Berry, she left, I believe, and then Halle Berry took over and was like, I want to direct this. I can do this. I know this story, and I can do this story. And I think that's great that not only did she step into the role, but she's like, no, I can direct this too. Like, that's incredible. I just think that's great.
Yeah. And she got injured for her art. I read somewhere that I think she did. But cracked some ribs or bruised some ribs or something, like a pretty significant injury in the course of making this.
Yeah. As someone who's had cracked ribs, let me tell you, it's very painful. Not fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that is a huge way that this diverges.
That's true.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, because usually it's down on their luck, white guys, sometimes white women. I mean, of course, there's Girl Fight too, which is Michelle Rodriguez. But she was really young in that role, so
yeah, she was.
So anyway, she was I'm always here for seeing older ladies. What was that, Dave?
She was a kid, I think, in that, like 20 or something, right? 21 when she did Girl Fight.
I would not call a 21-year-old a kid, but yes.
Well,
relatively speaking,
compared to 27 years younger than I am, kid-like then, cusp of adulthood. Yeah. I haven't seen Girl Fight in a really long time. I should see that again.
I have never seen it, actually. I need to see it. But anyway.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's interesting, though, that we're talking. I kind of took over and started talking about Girl Fight more, but you mentioned Girl Fight, and I'm like, oh, there's a better boxing movie. Let's talk about that. So I think that's kind of telling that, you throw out a better boxing movie, and I'm like, oh, right. Because, Bruised.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, Bruised, it's fine. It's. I don't know if you're going to be disappointed, but it's not going to. I'd be surprised if it, I don't know, it's very middle of the road.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think when you find you're watching a movie that's kind of riddled with cliches and predictable, you end up focusing on like silly things. Like, there's the scene where he's got to pick one candy and he puts 3 things on the counter at the kid. And then she's like, no, you can only have one of those things. So like between Twix and donuts, he picks donuts. And I'm just like, what?
Why wouldn't he pick I know. I was like, why didn't you pick the Twix?
Right. Well, there are 6 donuts in a pack and only 2 Twix.
Ooh, good call. And there's only 2 Twix. Yes.
To me, there's just no contest flavor wise. And I like donuts. And then like the other thing was like they're, announcing in the big fight, they're announcing the colors and they're like, over here wearing green. And we're like, wait, Lady Killer, that's not green. What are they talking about? It's just like you focus on like weird things in the movie instead of focusing more on the story.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I don't know if I focused on the weird things. Maybe I should have. What I was focusing on was I was so excited that the protagonist turned out to be queer. Surprise. And then I was thinking about all the other things. And I was like, wait a minute, why didn't I pick up that she was queer? Was she putting out queer vibes? And then I was like, I don't know. But then it made so much sense to me that she was in an abusive relationship in a way because, and I say this as a DV survivor and as a bi woman, but bi women are more susceptible to being in abusive relationships than straight people and like gay people. So I was like, interesting. Anyway.
I did not know that.
Yes.
Interesting.
I know. I'm here for the fun and depressing facts.
Sad, but
yes.
What I thought was really interesting in not a depressing or sad way, I hope, is that Lady Killer, who Jackie fights in the big fight. So I guess if you're comparing it to Rocky, don't compare it to Rocky. Anyway, so the entire time you see her on screen, she's just this fucking badass. And then after, she wins by split decision, she's like, Jackie, it was so awesome to see you in your ring. This is fucking great. And just like,
she's such a fan.
I know. I was like, wow, that's actually kind of a nice turn. I wasn't expecting that. Because
that was a nice turn.
Yeah. So, because if this were, Rocky 2 or Days of Thunder, they'd be, crashing cars together. They'd be racing wheelchairs down the hospital hallway. But in this one, it's just like, you fight well. Yeah. So,
yeah, it was. It was very refreshing to see. And it's also, I don't know, it feels like maybe this is kind of corny, but I didn't care. It worked for me. I love that she gets a standing ovation at the end of the match, even though she didn't win. It felt very lovely.
It had very similar vibes to the next movie we're going to talk about when they were chanting her name.
You are not wrong, Evan.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that parallel between the two. One thing I wanted to talk about is the scene where Bobby and Jackie, like their sex scene. Like it starts with them having this like very intimate emotional moment where Bobby is consoling Jackie and trying to pick her back up. And I don't know, for me, I just felt uncomfortable at the idea that like immediately led to sex. And I was just curious what you both thought of that scene and if you had any thoughts on like the kind of rapid transition from like, we're dealing with something like extremely emotional and I'm comforting you. And now that is just very quickly turned to sex.
I'll let Megan go first on this one.
So I hear you. I do. It didn't bother me, and it arguably could have. Maybe it even should have, but it didn't, because that actually strangely felt kind of authentic to personal experiences I've had. So it didn't feel such a stretch. But I do know what you mean. I think what would have worked better is if we'd seen some kind of intimacy beforehand. And I don't mean intimacy from a sex standpoint, but I mean like if we'd seen some hand touching or if we'd seen some hugging or some kind of gentle tenderness in a physical way pre their sex scene. So it would have felt a little more organic and not such a like, whoa, kind of whiplash moment. Because I definitely felt a whiplash moment. I was like, whoa, have I been sleepwalking watching this movie? Did I miss all the cues? What?
There's one cue when they're having dinner at the diner or lunch at the diner. They're at the diner and Bobby goes to like move Jackie's hair out of her face, and Jackie kind of like, whoa, hey.
Fuck, I forgot. That's right.
I noticed these things.
Well, I usually do too as a queer woman. I'm here for the hand holding and finger touching and hair brushing aside.
Yeah. Well, I saw that coming because you can see everything coming in this movie. And
that is true.
And then I was
except for that, for some reason, I don't know. Maybe I was sleeping after all.
Well, what I was thinking was, how's Jackie going to react to this? And when she sort of recoiled, I was like, okay, that kind of tracks with how the movie has been going. But then to answer Evan's question about the sex scene, to me it seemed like it came out of nowhere a little bit, but with that other scene in your mind, it seemed like Jackie's turn was kind of quick, but maybe it's not. Fucking people are people, man. Who knows? So I wouldn't say that it bothered me. I just thought, like everything else in this narrative, it's kind of like, oh, well, all right.
Oh, well, all right.
Fair enough.
No, but I'm actually glad you brought it up because I think it's an interesting scene to unpack, especially, and their relationship is too, especially in light of everything else. So I'm actually really glad you brought it up.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Well, I was glad to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think the one last thing I have to say is that I just wish, this brings up so many issues, so many. It's dealing with so many things. I just kind of wish we'd gotten a little deeper into more of them because a lot of times it felt kind of surface level to me.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, but do you guys have any final thoughts?
I do not.
No, I think we covered everything.
Yeah. Great performances, though, by Halle Berry and Sheila Team, though. And Manny.
And Manny, yeah.
Playing Manny.
He was really good. Danny Boyd Jr., that's his name.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave. All right. Well, let's talk about our final film, King Richard, the biopic and sports movie about Richard, the father to Venus and Serena Williams, and their starting off in their tennis career and their rise.
Yeah. Although it's more about him than it is them. But I mean, it is called King Richard.
I think it's both.
Well, it's about Venus. It's not really so much about Serena, which is interesting.
Oh, I don't agree.
Well, it's about Serena in the sense that she's sort of left out intentionally and as part of King Richard's master plan. But I mean, I think that's, I don't know.
No, it's okay. We can disagree. I just don't agree.
I'm just trying to think about what I think of it as. This is another. It's fine. King Richard's fine. It's a little better than fine because Will Smith is very good in a very un-Will Smith-like performance. And if you watch footage of Richard Williams, he does it pretty well. Mm-hmm. It's not like a caricature. It's his own thing, but it definitely feels like Richard Williams. And I thought it was really nice to see a movie with, it's going to sound weird, a white guy saying this, but a black male lead who's a nurturing father figure. Because you don't see that much. That's not
weird at all. I think it's important to see. Yeah, I agree with you.
So in that regard, I think it's really, really good. And but I mean, also because I know the Williams sisters story, it's kind of like watching this play out. It's like, well, if you've ever watched a documentary about them or, followed their careers and they've had very long, successful careers, especially Serena, then you kind of just know all this stuff, So in that regard, it's kind of like, well, I mean, I even remembered like the coaches, like that they had and who show up in the movie in the form of Tony Goldwyn and John Bernthal. So John Bernthal, whose haircut isn't nearly as bad as the real guy's haircut, I want to add.
No, and his mustache is amazing. I was going to say, I actually just want to jump in because I forgot to tell the credits that this is directed by Ronaldo Marcus Green, written by Zach Balin. And yes, it stars Will Smith and also, like you mentioned, Tony Goldwyn, John Bernthal, Ingenue Ellis as their mother, and Sanaya Sidney as Venus, and Demi Singleton as Serena. So yes.
Yeah.
But that mustache, it's everything.
That mustache deserves billing.
I like that he comments on the mustache. He's like, she's scared of my mustache.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yes. But Dave, you just thought this was kind of fine.
Yeah. I mean,
with a pretty good performance from Will Smith.
Yeah. Good performance from Will Smith. Good performance from Venus, Sanaya Sidney. Really good performance from her, I thought. And Mom,
she's amazing.
Whose name has already escaped me.
Ingenue Ellis.
I actually thought John Bernthal was just okay. I think that Tony Goldwyn was good, but he was kind of doing his Tony Goldwyn thing.
He kind of does that and everything, but that's not bad.
It's not bad, but it sort of reminded me more of like the president from...
yes!
What's the Carrie
Scandal?
Thank you, Scandal. Reminded me more of that.
In Scandal.
So... I also liked all the interplay between all the sisters, the few times that all five of them are in a room together. Mm-hmm. That was kind of like it did feel very sisterly to me. Or I should say siblingly to me, because I don't have sisters, so I don't know what that's like. But, from what I've been told, hey, that's kind of what it looks like. So yeah, it's fine. Whatever. Well, I mean, what do you two think?
I thought this was really good. I actually very much enjoyed the movie. I probably would echo a lot of the things that's already been said. I think Will Smith is just really great in this. And I don't think I had really seen Ingenue Ellis in things. Like, I didn't remember seeing her before. And I thought she was just fantastic.
Yeah.
She really, her performance was incredible. I feel like she really held her own throughout the entire movie and like went toe to toe, both performance wise and character wise. I felt like she was a force to be reckoned with in any scene. They have this very charismatic dad who's out there, trying to sell their careers and this and that. But, they also have this very strong mother figure who is not going to take shit from him. Like the scene where he tries to drive away from them at the store, or the scene after when he's trying to get them to, quote unquote, be humble by watching Cinderella, and the scene later on where she really lets him have it.
Yeah, when he fires Tony Goldwyn,
Yep.
Well, then even the scene later on too,
Yep.
where they're in their house in Florida, and I forget. Oh, he doesn't want Venus to play in this like big tournament, and he just unilaterally decided that she's not going to do it, and she just really lets him have it there too. So anyway, I thought she was just fantastic. I did like John Bernthal in this.
Me too.
Really,
I always like him.
I usually like him, and I thought he did a really good job with the accent. I was surprised that I didn't really hear him break on the accent. But I also liked his character of being this like very put upon guy who's still like, he could be a lot more pissed than he is in the way, like the way that like, you know, Richard is constantly like changing the terms of their deal and like asking for like the moon. But he still is in it. Like he's still an enthusiastic supporter and becomes kind of part of the family in the weird kind of way. He's kind of like the weird uncle who like, not like the creepy weird uncle, but he's like the weird uncle who's like takes when they turn down the deal for Nike, like, okay, let's go out to dinner. Rick's gonna take us out for seafood, and he's just like sighing over the fact that they just passed on this $3 million deal.
It's so great. He's gonna take us out to a seafood buffet.
Yeah.
Or maybe a seafood dinner, but whatever it was, yes, it was great.
So yeah, I think it succeeds for performance wise, but also it's just, I don't know. I found it to be an engaging movie despite being over 2 hours. And you know how sometimes I feel about movies that are over 2 hours. I was really into it. I thought the sport scenes were exciting. Some really great shots of footwork and racket. I don't know, volleys, racketing. I don't know what to call some of these things. I never really watched tennis in my life, but I don't know. I just thought it was also an exciting sports movie too. But what did you think, Megan?
Yeah, I liked it for a lot of the reasons that you're saying. And also that you said, Dave. I think Will Smith is really, really great in this role. And I mean, I think he always has a charisma, but I'm not always convinced that he's an amazing actor. And I think he does a really great job here. And I agree completely with you, Dave, that it doesn't feel like a caricature in any way, shape, or form. But he really does transform his speaking style, his cadence, his body language.
Yeah, his body language is really different from regular Will Smith.
Yeah, like I at times I completely forgot it was Will Smith. Like that's how different he feels and in such a great way. And I also agree with you that I think it's so important to show a nurturing Black father. So I love that too. I love Ingenue Ellis, and I've seen her before, but it's always a delight to see her again. And so I'm really glad that she's in this, and she is really fantastic. And I think for a film that really focuses on Richard, I think it is so important to have Oracines' perspective too, and we really get her perspective, and we really it's never a question of what she feels or what her thoughts are on something, and I love that. I also really like the infusion of racism and police brutality, like in how they're watching TV, the Rodney King beating, which is obviously horrifying and disturbing, but showing that. And Richard talks about how, like right in the beginning of the film, he talks about how even though he was an athlete, he didn't play tennis because he said we were too busy running from the Klan. And he talks about that a lot. And they're just that infusion of, racism. And he pushes back when white coaches or agents talk about how exceptional, Venus and Serena are, especially Venus. And he's like, wait, would you say that about the white girls? And so there's just those very important elements that I was glad to see that are there. I absolutely adore Sanaya Sidney. I loved her in Julia Hart's Fast Color. She's so good. And I'm so glad to see her here. I mean, she's done other work too. Like she was in The Passage, the TV adaptation of that book. But I love seeing her because she's such a great actor. She's really, really good. And I think the rapport that she has with Demi Singleton is really good as well. And I really enjoyed watching the two girls kind of emulate the Williams sisters and seeing how they would do tennis wise. And I read an interview with them at RogerEbert.com that neither of them had ever played tennis before. This was their very first time, and they did a lot of training for it. But they both have dance backgrounds, and Sanaya also had track background. So they were kind of familiar with, being physical and choreography. But still, I was kind of impressed. I mean, not that I know a lot about tennis, because, oh God, do I not? But it was just kind of nice to see. Like it looked like they were emulating the styles of Venus and Serena's tennis playing, and I liked that a lot. But yeah, I think the acting is probably the best thing about this film. I mean, there are other good elements too, but for me, this film really works because of the acting. It hinges on the acting.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, when you're telling a story about real people and such charismatic and also just groundbreaking, people who've done groundbreaking things, you kind of need great performances to kind of carry the story through, I think, anyway.
Yeah, sure. No, I think what makes this work is obviously you both liked it more than I did, but I think the performances really do carry through some of the lesser moments.
Yes, I agree with you.
So, like when Richard is going to hunt the guy down who beat the crap out of him, and the guy just happens to get shot in a drive-by in front of him. It's like, well, I mean, it's a good thing Will Smith's pulling this scene off, because I don't believe it.
I know. And then I was like, what if that really did happen? But it doesn't feel like it did at all.
Yeah. I mean, it seems that would be amazing if that really happened in real life. Just for, circumstances sake. But
right.
Yeah, moments like that, I did appreciate, though, that they got the VW van that the Williams family had so perfectly correct.
Agreed. I know. I didn't know about how perfect it was until we see the real footage and the photos, and I'm like, oh my God, it's the same.
Yeah. And I liked the way that Mom and Dad, but in particular Mom, deal with the nosy neighbor across the street who's a real asshole.
Yeah, like really
just a busybody fucking dick. Like calling Child Protective Services on Venus and on Richard, I guess, when Venus and Serena are playing tennis in the rain. Because you know what? Have you ever watched Wimbledon? They make you play in the rain a long time before they call it to put the tarp on the, to put the tarp on the grass. So anyway, not unusual. As a kid who played sports, not unusual to play sports in the rain at school. So not child endangerment. I'm just going to throw that out there. So that character, I'm really glad that Mom went over there and was like, look, shut the fuck up, in a much more eloquent way.
Yeah, I was going to say a much more gracious way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not rated R, so,
that is true.
It's PG-13. It's PG-13, comeuppance, I guess. I don't know what you would call it.
Just PG-13. PG-13 usually gets at least one fuck.
That's true.
The one fuck rule.
Yeah. That's true. I don't think there's any fucks in this. I don't remember there being one. There might be.
No.
It's a definitive no.
No, I didn't remember hearing it. I didn't. I feel like I would have remembered a fuck in this movie just because it seemed otherwise relatively wholesome content. One of the things, I just thought of this, that I also thought was really compelling was seeing when they first start kind of competing in the juniors, and you see all of the white parents and athletes being really sore losers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like refusing to take trophies or trying to cheat in one instance. I love that we eventually, we get to the top of the tournament, and then the girl that she competes against, they're taking a photo together and saying good job, nice, it's a very pleasant interaction. And so I just thought that was cool after seeing all these really terrible sore loser asshole people see other people that are at the top of their game. That's it's view it more as friendly competition,
Yeah. Well, that's what's so interesting too, is that one of the parents berates her daughter and is like, you didn't even look like you wanted to be out there. Did you even want to be out there?
Oh my God.
As she's hanging her head in shame and fear.
That's an 8-year-old kid.
Right. And it's so interesting. It's such a stark contrast because Richard constantly says, even though he has been pushing Venus and Serena to be, millionaires, and that they're the best and they're amazing and you've never seen anyone like them, even though he's been instilling them with that confidence and telling everyone else about that right from the opening scene, I love that he tells them, go out there and have fun, have a good time. And that's so important. And it's something that really feels like the core of what he tried to instill with them. And I think that's really important because you have to be enjoying it if you're going to be dedicating your life to it.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. And I love that even though it was very obnoxious to the people doing the interviews, I love that he was so protective of his daughters in interviews too, where he would interject because, in a lot of the situations that, the person doing the interview is just going to keep prodding and poking until they feel like they can expose some kind of weakness and then like pounce on it. And so I love that. They'd give a confident answer and be like, no, you're done. You're not asking more questions. You gave a confident answer. The end. Move on.
Yep. Well, that's the thing, because people are intimidated by confident women and girls, and particularly confident Black women and girls. So, yeah. And it's refreshing to see how confident they were and are, and that their father was equally confident in them, if not more so. It's really lovely. And this kind of pivots to something I want to talk about, because there's been a lot of discourse on social media where some people have complained that the film focuses on their father rather than on Venus and Serena Williams, considering what accomplished athletes they are. And I think people who have said that have been rightfully so called out, because I think it's incredibly short-sighted, because it ignores the fact that Venus and Serena Williams are both executive producers on this film. Mm-hmm. They had a tremendous amount of input. And in an interview, Serena Williams talked about why the film was told from the perspective of their father, because she said very clearly, this story could be told a lot of different ways, but it's told from our father's perspective because he was the one who had the idea. And so it starts with him. And, there you go. So, and it's great. And someone else I saw on Twitter said this much more eloquently than I could, that it's really important to see a father, particularly a Black father, have such confidence in Black girls and his Black daughters. And that's really pivotal to see and important. And so, yeah.
What I was thinking about, which is sort of related to the movie, but also related to the Williams sisters' real lives, is the way that Venus, the big moment in the movie here is when Venus plays Arantxa Sanchez Vicario and Venus's first professional match, and the bathroom break. I remember the bathroom break. I don't remember it being as long as they portrayed it in the movie, which I think they said was 9 minutes, which is absurd. Mm-hmm. But tennis players used to do that all the time. We watched tennis all the time when I was a kid because my brother was a really serious tennis player. So this era of tennis, I just remember really well. But then also the parallel with Serena, I don't remember which year this was, when she was playing Justine Henin from Belgium, and Justine held up her hand before a service, which Serena saw, but the chair didn't see, and so he called Serena gave her a fault for not serving, or for not. I can't remember what it was. She faulted because he didn't see the handheld, and it's been like a thing forever. Like, people still talk about the hand. They still talk about the bathroom break.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was
I would imagine.
I said this when we were watching it. It was a shitty stall tactic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That, I was like, you can't not walk into that one. I have to say, I really like that scene. I mean, obviously, it's an important scene if people are still talking about it so many years later. But I also really like the way that scene is shot, specifically in how, especially because we get so much focus on Richard, I think it's a really smart move to keep the camera with Venus and follow her in to show what a momentous occasion this is for her. And I really liked that choice.
Yeah. And she did just fall apart after Sanchez Vicario came back. I remember just like her getting murdered. And it was like, Jesus. But that's tennis.
Once you get in your head, sometimes you can't get out.
Yeah. Tennis is crazy, man. It's like one of those, because, individual sports, it's just like so you don't have 4 other people to rely on or 10 other people
No,
or whatever.
just you.
And if they get in your head, man, it can really fuck you over. So that's why, so many golfers come in second place so often. They just can't mentally win the championship. Kind of same with tennis, So.
Yeah, I mean, your greatest opponent is always yourself.
Yeah. I should mention that I liked watching the movie from a tennis point of view. It's nice to see a movie about tennis. There, I forgot about this. Part of the reason I like I said, still don't, appreciate it as much as you two did, but just all the tennis stuff, I was just like, oh yeah, I remember, shagging balls for my brother. And I didn't do that very often because he thought I was, just like the annoying younger brother, which I was. So, but yeah. That was fun.
But you know what's funny? I don't like tennis at all. And I think this speaks to what you're talking about, Evan, about it being dynamic. I actually found it really interesting. And it speaks to what you're saying too, Dave, that as a tennis fan, you enjoyed watching it. And I enjoyed it as a non-tennis fan. So
same.
And you did too, Evan. So there you go. It's interesting.
So good movie, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I think the acting is what carries this mostly, but I think there are a lot of good choices that are made in this film.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, like I guess there's one to illustrate what I mean. There's one scene, the scene where Venus is talking to Richard and he's talking about how she's going to be so influential to so many Black girls. And he talks about how his father was never there for him and his father ran away when he started getting beat up by white men. And that scene, I feel like in a lesser film, it would have had this real kind of emotional swell of the musical score. And it doesn't do that. It doesn't have any score whatsoever. And it's a small thing that's really important. And I appreciated it. So there's little touches like that I appreciated in the film.
Me too.
But do we have any final thoughts?
Nope, not me.
I think we covered it.
All right. Well, then let's do a recap and tell you where you can find these movies. So The Humans is in theaters and streaming on Showtime. Evan, would you recommend it?
I'm going to say no.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of torn because it's such a great cast and some good cinematography. Yeah, I feel sad saying, yeah, no. I'm so bummed. All right. Bruised is in theaters and streaming on Netflix. What would we say?
Yes, maybe.
Yeah, I think I lean more toward yes than no on this one.
Yeah, I would say not a great movie, but Halle Berry's performance is really good. So yeah, so I would also say see it with kind of a caveat.
Yeah.
Or like you said, Dave, see it?
Yeah.
You very much articulated how I was feeling. Okay, and King Richard is in theaters and streaming on HBO Max. And I think we would all say see it, even though you liked it a little less than we did, Dave.
Yeah, I'd say see it.
All right. And I just spoke for you, Evan, that you said see it too.
Yes, I did. In parentheses, see it.
Well, we want to give a huge, huge thank you to our amazing editor, Otto Clammer. Otto, thank you for making us sound so fantastic week in and week out.
Thanks, Otto. I wish you could
Otto.
correct my performance as well as my voice, but I'll take what I can get.
I was going to say Otto is kind of a miracle worker, so but you should follow them on Instagram because they are amazing. But I don't know if they're so amazing they can change your performance.
Yeah,
Dave.
yeah. There's not much you can do with that shit. So
Yikes.
it's just a joke, I guess.
Wink, maybe.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to turn this into the Dave show. Okay.
We'll do a Dave therapy session later.
Right.
You can find Spoiler Piece anywhere you get podcasts. We're everywhere. You can also find us at our website, spoilerpiece.com. You can find us on social media. We are all over the place. We're at Spoiler Piece on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and TikTok. So come join us, follow us, say hello to us on all of the social media platforms. If you want to reach out to us, you can also email us at spoilerpiece@gmail.com. We love hearing from you. We love getting your feedback, your comments, what movies you like, what movies you didn't like. Did you agree? Did you disagree? All of that jazz. And you can also call us
at 862-21-PEACE.
You can leave us a voicemail message. You can text us even. We just love hearing from you. So please reach out. And if you like the show, please rate and review us by going to ratethispodcast.com/spoilerpiece. That really helps us out, gets the word out about the show. You can also rate us at Apple Podcasts. That gets the word out also tremendously, which we love doing. So please consider doing it. And if you have rated us, thank you. And if you really, really like the show, consider joining our Patreon. We do weekly bonus episodes. Like this week, we talk about our monthly poll winner. We do monthly polls for our patrons too. And it was a noir poll, and the winner was Robert Altman's The Long Goodbye, starring Elliot Gould. We had a great time talking about that. If you sign up for $5 a month, not only do you get the weekly bonus episodes and voting in monthly polls, you also get access to our back catalog of about 200 bonus episodes, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It is awesome. I agree with Evan.
It is. So if you're not a patron, consider joining. And if you are a patron, thank you so much for your support. And also thank you for listening. My name is Megan Kearns. I write film reviews for Edge Media Network. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association. You can follow me on Twitter at OpinionSWorld or on Instagram and Letterboxd at TheOpinionS.
My name is Dave Riedel. I write about movies. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and you can follow me on social media as Dave Sees Movies at Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd.
And my name is Evan Crean. I am co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd as Real Recon, and that's real as in film reel.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.